com, and we are very glad to have you with us again here on Monday at 2 o'clock, and we're here for the next hour. And we hope you'll stay tuned. We know you're busy, and I don't know if you felt like I did yesterday after the Super Bowl game was over. That one guy that comes on that talks about, was always talking about trash. John, you ever see this guy? He comes on, everybody's playing football, everybody's playing basketball. He's a sports guy, but he's also a comedian. He's this guy and that trash.
I don't say no. I can't say I saw that. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that's what I felt last night when I was watching the San Francisco team. They found some new ways to lose the games like these guys. I don't know if those guys want to payroll or not. But I'm gonna use that guy's word, trash. That was terrible. They down there. They were on the first on the first plays of the game, the kickoff. They were marching down the field. They couldn't stop them. I'm talking about Kansas City couldn't stop them on defense, and they were marching down the field. And then the guy gets down there and fumble the ball after all that yardage they had. Starting the 25-yard line. They were down about the 20-yard line when they finally caught the ball up and gave it over to Kansas City. And that's when you saw the doors were closing slowly on. I mean, how many chances do you have? And they outplayed. It's something. Maybe somebody you're playing on Sunday. Maybe somebody doesn't want them playing on Sunday, but they beat them in every facet of the game. The defense was playing great and had to shut them down because they kept coughing the ball up. And going into overtime, they could have number of things went wrong. And then on the extra point, score a touchdown, and then don't get the extra point. And that was a factor because if they had gotten that extra point, they would have won by 1 point and never gone to overtime. And then here I am trying to get some hamburger money. I don't bet anything big, but I was really disappointed, and I was not pulling. I'm not going to be like a lot of person to change the team that they thought was going to win the game. Once the other team is like you're pulling for the other team, and then when they lose, it's like yay! I was cheering for the other team all along. I was not. I'm not going to tell that story. I was not cheering for Kansas City, and I think Mahomes is. He's no Brady, and they can say what they want to, and he has certainly been a factor the last 5 years. And I know the record has been stellar in terms of a lot of things they've been doing over there, but they've been getting a lot of help from the other team, and they got some help. They got some help when they played the Lions, and there's somebody up there looking out for them. I don't know what kind of prayers y'all sending up there, but where they are, some give me the playbook. But that was just at least one. I would say this: at least the advertisers were happy because if you don't, those advertisers are paying big money for. They can't even do a minute anymore. It's too cost prohibitive. They have to do the 15-second kind of commercials where they have to get in, make the point, get out, and save some money. And they tell me some of the seats they were selling in the stadium were like $40-some thousand. Now, I like football. I only watch it when they have the playoffs, when it counts. I can't sit there for the whole year and watch games and things like that for the whole season. I don't have that kind of time. But when it counts in terms of crowning the champion, then I'm with that in terms of just a single game or maybe a couple of games on the way to the Super Bowl, and you have the champions playing each other in different divisions, and it's coming down to 4 teams, and you eventually get it down to 2, and then get the Super Bowl game. And it's one thing that they want to happen, given the price tag of those commercials, is that you want to have the game go down to the wire so as to keep the viewers there. Because those that paying for those blurbs are going to be very upset if the viewers start falling off and they don't have the viewership, and you got all this money you're paying for the advertising seconds. You're not talking about minutes anymore. and nobody's watching your commercial, you're not too happy about that, because the product is supposed to turn the viewers over to the advertisers. And that's the name of the game there. And if you don't have anybody at the end of the game and they're paying all this big money, these big bucks for it, some of them going to want their money back. But that game was overtime, so everybody was still there. I don't think they had a whole lot of fall off. If they had no fall off, it would have been while Usher was up there doing. I don't know what that was about. The halftime, that was a disaster. I mean, and I think they need to just stop. Well, I know why they did that, but they need to stop all that entertainment and stick to football. All that dancing, everybody turning in the Super Bowl to watch them out up there dancing and singing and twisting and all. Look, if you go to a concert, and if you're going to do that to different generations, then play everybody's music. Get up there. Everybody not into hip hop and all that turning and all that bumping and all. We had enough of that with Presley. I like it, by the way.
By the way, did you hear this? Did you hear the conspiracy? I think it's kind of. I mean, I don't like to jab, and stuff, but I guess Travis, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, was a big component going on telling people how he got jabbed, and they had pictures of his arm, had several band-aids on it indicating he got all these jabs, and then they're trying to put a link between him being so compliant and his team winning the Super Bowl, getting to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. So I mean, I think I like to think that it would be above that. It's a possibility but I mean, I can't imagine every one of the players be on board for this and not say anything.
Now, what I heard glimpses of that. What are they saying?
They're basically trying to say the conspiracy because Travis is so compliant about the getting vaccinations.
Okay.
And now his team mysteriously makes it to the the playoffs and ultimately wins the Super Bowl. I went,
yeah.
I think that's all these other teams they played, all the players have been informed that they have to throw the game. They're going to be questioned. Don't you think somebody had been disgruntled at that?
Yeah, but that's not how they're. I know that there are a lot of people saying that the Super Bowl and other games during the season, and not just in this year, but in other years as well, they say the games are fixed. And what they're saying, and I've seen some examples of it. I don't think you have to involve the players in it. That would be a little bit more. That could fall apart very quickly, because somebody's going to talk. If you have more than one or two persons involved in it, maybe three at the most involved, then you got some snitches out there that will be talking underneath the radar, and that would not fly. But I have seen referees. I saw this recently in just some of the replays of where there was something going on that should not have been going on in the field, where the referees making a difference, and that was one where a guy walks right in front of where the ball is, and while he's walking there and blocking the camera and the ball, the guy walks there, and then the other guy moves the ball up a little bit, and so it's no longer 4th and 1. It's now first down. The ball has been pushed up a lot. I've seen that, and there have been some marquee players have been saying that the game has been fixed. They're not talking about the players being involved in it. They're talking about the ref making a difference. And how many of you remember, this is a side point, how many of you remember that immaculate catch made by Franco Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the day? And the ball had been thrown down the field. It ricocheted off of one of the players, bounced around for a while, hit different players' hands, and ended up in Franco Harris's hands. And the question was whether or not that was a legal catch because of all of the action the ball had gone through, and could you in fact credit that with a touchdown? And the stadium was going wild, and that would have been the game that determined the outcome of the game. The referees are meeting in the huddle, and what they're discussing at huddle, as we found out later on, was that the rest was saying, how many officers do you have in the stadium? And they said, well, we don't have enough. In other words, if you reverse that touchdown, you're gonna need to bring the whole police force in here. So they came out of the huddle, and the lead referee came up there and he said, touchdown. So a lot of times, that's when you say fixing it, they talk about stuff like that. And I've seen some evidence of the fact they have certain ones that are supposed to win. I saw it this weekend in boxing. They had boxing on Thursday this past week because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's all Super Bowl time there, and they're having it in Las Vegas too. And so the people are there in the state. They are in Nevada, and so given the fact the crowd has come there, probably come there for the week because it's a week of festivities going on, and they had enough crowd there, so they had the fight on Thursday. And this one guy, T.O., I know this, you're not maybe sports fans that watch our program, but everything is everything. So I like to venture off in sometimes different directions, but T.O., this guy named I think it's Teofimo, something like that. He's a marquee fighter. He thinks he's ready for Crawford, but he's not. But he's a marquee fighter, and he's one of the ones that's making some noise out there and making some money for those who are promoting his fights. He lost that fight this past Thursday. Now the decision didn't go his way. What the guy did to beat him was he was running the whole fight, hitting him and then using his footwork and getting out of the way of any punishment in return. And that guy could never catch up with this guy, but this other guy wasn't supposed to win. And then when you heard the fight card scores of the three referees, you wonder what fight were they watching? What did they see? Did they see him coming? And one record was 117 to 111. There was no way that fight was 117 to 111, favoring the person that was expected to win. He was a 7-1. He had double the odds of 7-1. He'd win the fight. And that guy didn't go into the slug with him because that would have been a 7-1 fight if he had done that. What he did is he moved around, and this guy couldn't catch him, and so they gave it to this the one supposed to win because of aggression. Also, the money's involved in it, and so there's some and the refereeing in boxing is subjective, just like it is on these courts. They're not, the idea that we're being ruled by the law and all that. Just get out of here with that. If you get these many of that particular ideology on the court, then the court rules this way. And if you have these others on there and they have a different view of the politics, then they rule that way. And the things they're looking at the same document and coming with such opposite conclusions, is madness. These people are. There's no, and that's why I was saying in my post, there's no rule of law in this country. You can't say a two-tier system of justice. There's no system of justice in this country. And I'm going to get around to that later on because I'm going to eventually, not right now, but eventually I'm going to get around to Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. I need to explain that because all these I don't want to call them this in my mind to call them, but I have to call them out because what they're saying is nonsense. And I've been mentioning their names in my posts so that they know that they better not get out here and say anything to me about what they're saying on television. You can run that by the layman. I'm not a layman. Now you cannot say these things to me, and they won't. If anybody was calling me out as much as I'm calling these guys out, and they don't come out, that's a statement to me that they know they're not ready. They're not going to come out here. And I call the name out. I'm trying to get them caught in the fight. Come out in defense of that stuff you're saying on television. Now and when I hear that they're going to be on television, I tune that in. If I'm even in my most busy moments of the day, if I can, I got to save some time for that or tape it. I got to listen to that conversation, and because I know that they don't know what they're talking about. I know that these lawyers, they're not. They claim you can claim anything. You can claim to be a constitutional scholar. You can claim that you, as Alan Dershowitz does, he loves the Constitution. You love the Constitution, but you're voting for the ones that's violating it, and you won't come out of that camp. And you love the Constitution, but yet these persons you're voting for and you do it religiously, and you say so in your analysis on TV, and you love it, but the ones that are valid, and you're voting for them. And that's why I always say you can't run with the rabbits and then hunt with the hounds. And that's what Alan Dershowitz does. I wish he would get on my post. I've invited him on there a number of times. Say to me that what you're saying on television, see what you get. That ain't gonna work. That's not gonna fly. You can't say that to me. And so but that people are fudging. That's what I'm saying. That people are manipulating. People are manipulative, and that's why the framers were doing the things they did in that room. They knew that they had to nail down power. They knew that if it's unfettered, if it's not tethered to and even there is a problem, but at least you're making the effort to hold power down, because once power is in fact not limited, now you can't limit it absolutely, which is what the articles did. They just decided they had faced King George III. They're not going to give the federal government any power. They knew, and they tried to get away with just simply, weaken it so that he couldn't do anything, and then had to have unanimity. And that tells us another thing. You have unanimity of all of the states in order to come into an agreement. All had to agree on it in order to, in fact, amend the document to which they had formed the Confederation. Now that nobody's talking about that, but they had to have unanimity in the article. They were so fearful that the small states would be overwhelmed by the large states, or some states would coagulate their power, and everybody would be in part of the club, and then those outside the club would be smashed through a majoritarian view, and they would amend it to their benefit, to the detriment of other groups. They were not coming into Confederation for that, and they wanted a unanimous agreement before they would amend the document from what they'd agreed to. And that's what's happened, quite frankly, with the Constitution of the United States, where it's been it still has teeth in it. Let me say this: it still has teeth in it, but it's been amended beyond recognition to what the framers have put in place. Let me put it that way. And you can see that in many different instances. I'm saying this too. I'm saying that there are some things that they've amended the Constitution they've amended the Constitution in and placed it in the Constitution. But their issue is that, this is Moss speaking here, and there's nobody qualified to come behind me and say anything other than this. If they think they are, they're not doing it, and they better not try. But you can put things in the Constitution, and their thinking is that because it's placed in the document, therefore it becomes constitutional because of its placement. And I am objecting to that understanding of the Constitution, because you can put things in the Constitution that's unconstitutional if it in fact changes the very basis of why the Constitution was drawn up in the first place. See, that's a danger that you have, that you ratify a document and then the people amend it so the document ceases to be. So the document ceased to be what it was consented to.
The argument I used to hear, in college is that the Constitution can't be as strictly adhered to because our nation's outgrown the times and stuff like that. And I think it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I think, as a matter of fact, we'd have fewer problems if it had more strictly been adhered to.
Yeah, Moss is going to stand against that, because I know what the framers are doing in that room, and I've studied too much of that to be playing like I need to kneel down to this nonsense being talked about by these TV scholars. That's what they are to me. They're television scholars. And if you put them on TV, then they know, and then those not on TV, they don't know. And how you going to challenge those that's coming before you in your living room? And we're not in that central location where you feel safe and secure in your home, and we are not in that little box that you look at for your information. And they exclude those that are saying anything opposite of that. But I'm challenging all of them, because I don't think any of them have the background and the experience and knowledge that I have in a document that I know better than they do. And that's why I challenge all of them. And none of them come out. I tell them they're not coming, not coming out to do what? So, but there are some things in the Constitution that are unconstitutional because it renders the verdict against what the framers had in mind in their creation of document. And you cannot amend a document so that it ceases to exist for its purpose. Can I say that without you getting mad? That you cannot amend a document so the document ceases to exist for the purpose to which it was created. What you'll do there is at least be as honest as the framers were. They went there with the idea. They're not going there to amend. They're not going there to amend the Articles of Confederation. They're going to overthrow it. Where did all these plans come from once they got there? Start pulling out one plan after another. James Madison pulls out the Virginia plan. Then somebody pulls out the Connecticut plan. They had different plans. And we didn't know with the idea that we can't amend this thing here. And if we amend it to the point of where we are amending it to where it becomes effective and can actually do something, we've actually overthrown the document. At least give them credit for that. They were in that room with the idea that this cannot be amended. And I give them credit for that. Now, a lot of persons get stymied and this is a flaw and that's a flaw, and they had these many persons, they working all these things you do to discredit the framers. I'm telling you this, there was greatness in that room, and we have not had greatness in any of those rooms since that time, nor on any college campus since that time, and that's a fact. You can't get anybody at Harvard. Well, look what they just did last week with that. You can't get anybody at Harvard University and these other colleges that have these people are plagiarizing everything. I thought, that was my first shock when I went to college. I didn't know any better than that. I thought that everybody that was in college, they were way up here to me, because nobody in my neighborhood had gone to college. I'm the first one in that whole neighborhood that had gone to college. Nobody that came back and told me, well, this is what you have to look out for, and this got to look out for, and over here they're doing this. So I got in the college starting I was 17 years old at the time. I finished high school at 17. I had been double promoted I think I skipped over 5th grade, went from 4th to 6th. And, when I got to college, I was probably the youngest person on the campus. And here I am, Dumbo. I thought that you're supposed, and I still think that you have to earn your way. And if they are giving a test, then you have to go in there prepared to take the test. You can't go in there looking around trying to find out who paper you can copy off of. And that was and that surprised me in the first test I took. I never forget it. I was looking around the room. I'm trying to figure out. The teacher walked to the front of the room, and I hear bam, 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 books closing. I looked up, and then he walked to the back of the room. I heard the same thing, bam, 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 books closing again. So here I am. I'm Dumbo. I don't have the ears, but I'm the elephant in the room. And I asked this guy sitting next to me, who was sitting in every other seat. I never forget the guy's name. The guy was, I said I didn't forget his name. He is easy to forget because he's over there cheating too. Reverend, he was a theology major, but we all were in the freshman class. And I leaned over after I heard all the books closing, and I leaned over. I mean, he must have thought I was 12 sides of a fool. I said, are they cheating in here? Are they cheating in here? I mean, are they cheating? That's all they did for 4 years. I was at that campus, but I didn't know. I thought that that you're supposed to. I still think this way. You have to earn your way. When I went down, I tell you one other thing, and I get off this. But when I first went down to the university in daytime. A student challenged a grade, and so I had my calculator. I always had my calculator in my office. So I said, well, come to the office where we can discuss it. And she had gotten a C in the classroom, and she came to my office. The first thing she said is, I can't believe you gave me a C. Now I gave her a C. Now if she had an A, she made that. But if there's a C on C, then you gave her that. You gave her that grade. So here I am. I'm Dumbo again, without the ears, and I'm the elephant in the office. So So I took the calculator out and I went over everything I had recorded, and I said, this is this, this is that, and this is it. And I added it all up and divided by the number of grades and the points and did all that, taking my time. I could have been doing some reading, but I got to make sure that this person does not feel they've been cheated. But I didn't understand the context of the language. I'm from that school that you earn your way. And when I showed that these were the numbers and that was the determination based upon this calculated way of getting to the final point, the student told me, "Oh, I understand that, but I can't believe you gave me a C." Then I'm finally getting it, that they expected those affirmative action points. And excuse my grammar, you ain't getting no affirmative action points here. If you are not cutting the mustard, then go to some place or go into some class where the mustard is not demanded to be cut. But that doesn't work here. And I went back to tell the chair about that experience and everything. They laughed at me like I was 25 shades of an ignoramus. And I didn't know that was that's how it works. That's why nobody knows anything. I mean, you're not going to have any college bowls anymore except football. You tried that college bowl back in the time when they had Yale and Cornell and Brown and all of those universities, Harvard, Princeton. All those, they used to have quiz bowls, right? And they were answering questions. They have one person grading science, one grading history, one grading math, one different fields. And they had specialties, people that specialize in different areas. They brought them together as a team, and maybe 4 or 5 on this team, 4 or 5 on that team. They make the numbers even, but each one had scholars in that. You try that today. You think you're back out there in the street where they're doing these street interviews where nobody knows anything. They ask them the simplest questions and nobody can answer any of it. This is an embarrassment. And so this is that's what I'm talking about. But the cheating in terms of what goes on, really cheating goes on in all the areas. You know, there's very little honesty in the country today. I wouldn't even think about putting anybody on the honor system where you walk out and say, put y'all on the honor system, and I'm not going to have to watch over you like a vulture. I know when I leave out and have to go to the bathroom, that none of you going to open your book up and try to squeeze out an answer while I'm gone. I wouldn't dare do that, not in this environment today. But there was a time when all the way out up to my, from elementary school, grades 1 through 8, and then from grade 9 through 12, which is high school, didn't have middle school at that time for in our state. But they used to leave students in charge. Teacher would leave, and I mean gone for a period of time, and they put a student in charge, and they would take your name. That was very intimidating. Take your name, then teacher come back in. She wanted to find out who was talking, who was misbehaving, things like that. You don't want your name on, because they write your name down and give it to the teacher. That was big stuff. Of course, they could paddle at that time too. That was another factor. But no, the cheating is you don't have to have the cheating like in sports and that. Everybody bring the team together. We're gonna throw the game, and we're gonna do what Pete Rose was doing. Pete Rose never did, in fact, bet that his team was going to lose. He was betting his team was going to win. To me, if you're betting your team's going to win, that means that you're out there playing an honest game. I mean, if you're betting that you're going to win, I don't know if that. I don't think that'd be. I don't think I have a problem with. I mean, I know you're not supposed to bet on the team, but if you're betting that you're going to win the game, I don't say I can bet on the winning and then be a factor in determining the winning other than playing your best game. So I don't see the same problem with that. But if you're betting that you're going to lose and you go up there and get your 3 and come back to the bench and you're a good hitter, and Pete Rose was a great hitter, great ball player, and he should be, just a pitch here, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And don't come telling me that he was that he's better in the game, he's dishonest, and so on and so forth. When I used to see those guys run to first base and slide, and the reason it was sliding is because they stayed up all night drinking, and they thought they had to slide in the first base, and defamed the game by going out there drunk. Mickey Mantle was often playing inebriated state. And Babe Ruth, the greatest baseball player of all time. Now you can talk about his home runs, and they eclipsed that, but Babe Ruth was a multi-dimensional player, and he's the greatest baseball player of all times, not just the home runs that he hit. And Ramirez broke his record in '61. We broke the record. He 61 home runs that year. I remember that very well. But nobody has ever topped Babe Ruth in terms of the man was a pitcher. He played outfield. He was a feared. He was a Barry Bonds slugger, and unbeatable. Now, there are some others that would go up there and they have the bats corked and trying to get some advantage like that. And you go up there with a cork bat where the bat is doing some of the work and the swing and that and all of that. Well, I was a baseball player, so I know one of the things you do in baseball is that you go up. We didn't have that little piece of it's like a heavy object in the bat that you put it there and you swing it a couple of times before you go to the plate. The bat seems lighter in your hand once you go to the plate then, with having the weight on that bat as you're warming up to go to the plate and hit. But we didn't have that on our team, but it would not have been a foul if you had it. But I would take two bats and swing those around, get my arms loose. And when I go there and drop one bat and go up there to the other bat I use a 33 jug handle bat. And I tell you this, you threw that fastball up there, you're going to get a crook in your neck. I was a great hitter, but I didn't have a good arm, didn't have the speed. And that's why I didn't do anything beyond the college. But I was a terror at that plate. But there's a lot of cheating that goes on in everything. There are some referees that would be. I felt like I was a catcher in some of the games, and I felt like jumping out of the way and letting that ball hit some of those umpires. They back there, the ball coming down the pike. It wasn't even on the corners of the plate, and they come and call that a ball low. And I asked the ref, "What was the ball?" They'd go down there almost to his shoes. I mean, I'm saying some cheating now, so don't get me started on the cheating. But you have to understand that a lot of things they're doing. When you get to the Constitution and you are now doing things that finesse in that document, I have to tell you something. My training would not allow me to sit there and take that in silence. I just can't do it. And the reason for that, I guess, is because I've just spent too much time in it. And I think I'm too, well, I don't think about it is as qualified in this area as I am. That could be my ego. But I know this, none of those guys on TV are on this level. That much I know. And that's why I call their names out without any fear of them having anything to come back on, because I hear them. And now those others that are in the classroom, I don't know. I can assume. But I know those on TV, that doesn't fly. And I don't think they put them on television, quite frankly, unless they were saying the things they're saying. They don't put it back on TV that's going to pass out in information. And that which you should know about the government, I can tell you right now, that which you should know about the government is classified. They don't want you to know. And they put these persons on TV, and all they're doing is validating the things that we're not supposed to be privy to. And they classify that information that we should be privy to, because all citizens should have to be informed so they can make an informed decision in terms of choosing these renegades that are running for office. I don't consider any of them a big deal, but at least have the information that allow you to make a informed decision. I called today in my post for tell me what happened in Dealey Plaza 61 years ago. that happened in 1963, 61 years ago. Uh, you had, I mean, this is 2024. So tell me what happened in Dealey Plaza. Don't come telling me about Lee Harvey Oswald, because that's an insult to my intelligence in terms of what I've done in terms of doing an investigation of this. We still don't know who those persons were in that triangular fire the president got caught up in. But that's what they tell the public. Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald was on the second floor. You can't get down those stairs from the sixth floor to the second floor in 90 seconds. That officer was in that building within 90 seconds, found Oswald on the second floor, identified by the manager of the building. As the officer ran in there with his gun open and gun drawn and asked who that person was over there drinking that Coke. You gonna do all that in 90 seconds? You can't even come down the stairs. And you got to make sure that the elevator is working, because, and then that's gonna take some time, come down the stairs. Can't be done. Just like you cannot get that Corona rifle and do what they say it did within that 5.6 seconds of time in which the president's life was terminated. It was 6 seconds in Dallas, and everything was over within 6 seconds. Now they're packing the guns up and getting out of there. Now, but look, everybody, fudging is what persons do if they're not checked. And that's what I give the framers for. You're throwing something out, but if you're putting something better in its place, and there's agreement that you have to, they can't ratify it in that room. They have to agree to it and then submit it to the states for the ratification. And they get to seal the document once they brought it up and drafted it as the delegates to that convention, because they weren't even sent there to do that. But they have to now submit what they've done and try to get some agreement on it in terms, they didn't put all that work in from May 25th, 1787 to September the 17th of that year. And they didn't do that in order to have everything abrogated once they get back to their home states. They didn't want to get tarred and feathered. Now they got to sell the document, and that's what the Federalist Papers are about. I'm now finishing up reading the Anti-Federalist Papers. I found that very, I hadn't read the Anti-Federalist Papers when I was in my training, but I'm reading it now as a way of catching up on the other side of the arguments that were being made, and I'm finding it very fascinating in terms of that aspect. But I do know the Federalist Papers that were written as a way of explaining to the people, because they had not done what they had been sent there to do. Now they had explained what they did once they got there, because not everybody's in that room. And when they were sent there to just simply tighten up the document. I give them credit for not doing that, because I think the document was too flawed to be corrected. We'd be stumbling around here right now trying to find a way in order to corral these crooked politicians. And even though you got a document that says they can't do certain things, they're doing it anyway. You can imagine how they've been running roughshod over the Articles of Confederation. Okay, that's my spin, and that's my rant. Let me say this a little bit, and then I'll come back to the Constitution. But let me say this. I read, I listened to the video of Tucker Carlson's, yes, he did a great job with Vladimir Putin. And I asked myself the question then when I heard all the furor over this man went over to Moscow, he's in Russia. They even were saying before the interview occurred that Tucker Carlson is in Moscow. What is he doing over there? They were so concerned about it. I'm talking about the journalists were concerned. They wouldn't do it. He's over there in Moscow. He wasn't supposed to be over there. But Tucker Carlson was doing some great patriotic work. The man's a patriot.
Well, see, there's some journalists who are actually surprised that a journalist is actually doing journalism instead of like spouting out propaganda for the party in power. I mean, matter of fact, here's the irony. Putin allows an American journalist to come, a real journalist, not one in name only, to come and actually discuss things with him. and he seemed like he was forthcoming. I mean, he's a politician, so I have a tendency to think any politician, any cop, anybody who's got any kind of authority lies as soon as they open their mouth, and they basically transforms these people who might have been decent people, but then if they're actually seeking political office or becoming a cop or whatever, they're usually not really nice people in any way, but they're pretending to be anyway.
Yeah.
But he seemed to be straightforward coming, and Carlson is like a he's asking, he was getting kind of put off by, he thought it was a delaying tactic. And because Putin was going into about the history of Russia.
Mhm.
Well, that has to be laid out because Americans don't even know how many states we got in our own. He's got to lay down the groundwork because he realized the audience he's addressing.
John, you made a lot of points there and a lot of good points. And you certainly watched that video. I watched it throughout the time as well. In fact, that's the first part I watched twice, but the video. And then did you watch it with that on that one station, John, where the guy came after it was over? He did his own synopsis of the maybe did you?
No, I didn't see it. I just saw it. I think it was on Twitter or something, or
Okay.
X or whatever. I saw it on. I think.
Yeah, that was a guy that brought it on his program, and after it was over, he had lived in Russia for a while. So when they finished, then he gave a synopsis of the points, the main points that were in fact made. That was very instructive too. I got to find out what podcast this person is doing because he seems to know quite a bit of what's going on. But you picked up a point that needs to be brought out because it shows you Western thought and non-Western thought. And Tucker Carlson went there to talk specifically about the Ukraine problem and the possibility of what it will lead to if it's not checked between Russia, United States, the superpowers, and the super alliances and things of that sort. NATO and what they'll do if Ukraine goes into NATO, what will happen, and how something that starts out on a small scale could now proliferate into a much larger conflict. And Carson wanted to get to that. That's why he went over there to do the interview to try to see what Putin was saying. And really, he was trying. What Carson knows what the ruling class here in this country is trying to do. They're trying to. They know that one of the impediments to the globalist reach is number one, the impediment inside this country. The country does not go along with what they're doing. And so what they're doing to abrogate that problem is they're flooding the country with these immigrants. And they're changing the demographics of the country. That's what all that open border stuff is about. Don't come telling me that they can't control their borders and these people could just come and flooding in here. They're letting them in here.
How come we're required is U.S. citizens have to provide more ID and stuff like that more often to our officials around us than people who are coming across the borders do? Why do we have to sit there and shiver in fear while we're being inspected and being probed and we have to endure going through checkpoints where we have to basically spread our butt cheeks to have them really probe us when we go into a airport? But no, we're not supposed to stop the people coming across the border unchecked. No.
Yeah, and we have to have all these shots and everything, and the military, we got to have compliance. You got to get the shots, otherwise get out. And they come across the border, no shots. We don't know what kind of diseases they're bringing in here, and they're bringing drugs in here, and we're not supposed to have anything to say about it. And they are taking away liberties of Americans to accommodate the ones who broke into the country, and telling them that they want to put them on a path to citizenship. Now, why do you think they're doing that? Because they just, kissing all the persons that are outside the country. Why aren't they showing this love? What's that song? You got to show me love. Why aren't they showing some love to the American people? What about
no, they're finding ways to tax us even further. Yeah.
John, what about showing some love for those veterans that are paralyzed?
Because that's like that was yesterday's news, and they actually believe in freedom. We can't actually have people believing in freedom and the liberty and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We want to bring these people in and indoctrinate them to be dependent upon the state, and not challenge the power grab.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing they're doing, and you're making the point there. Another thing they're doing, you may think, I can go to the store and see something that's going on with the politics of this country. I go to the store and I can here's the guy in front of me, and I got my basket, and we pretty much in the hurry up line because we got maybe 5 or 6 things in our basket. Then you look behind us, and there's a basket. If you wait for that basket to go through the line, and that you could be waiting that 30 minutes, that basket is full. Now now the question is, why is my basket small and that basket in back of me, the one with all the stuff up to the end of the basket, all the way up? Who is that person? Well, it's a person that's dependent upon the government. That person is not that, because there are 2 classes here now. One is the ruling class, and the other one is the people down here that are dependent, and they've been taken care of. And why is that true? Because if you're not taking care of that group, they are a threat to the ruling class, because burn the country down. They're getting their way because they understand that those persons have nothing to lose in the proposition, and so they're kind of getting them entitlements. But where's the middle class in this country today? Doesn't exist. And so they know, and I think I saw this in one of the videos. They know the people that are ruling us. They know we're tired of them. They saw that in 2016, and they had Hillary Clinton that was running. She's a seasoned politician. This guy's coming out of apartment buildings and real estate and things like that. Never held a political office. What's he doing running? Coming down the escalator to do what? To embarrass himself. And they convinced themselves that was true. But they failed to understand that people were sick of them and were looking for an alternative, and finally had an alternative. And while they were there saying that this is a done deal, the man is crazy and he's off, he's this, he's that, what he was doing was having those rallies. And I'm watching all the rallies this man was having, every last one of them. Stadiums couldn't hold them. And every time they had him on television, the people tuning it in, the ratings went up. Everybody now wants to have more debates than what was planned, because when he was in a debate, everyone wanted to see it because it was fresh air man saying things that were not politically correct, but saying things they believed in, and they tuned it in. They were begging this man to do more debates, because it was such an exciting thing to see a man that wasn't trying to hide behind a mask. They dismissed all that until November the 8th, 2016. But on November the 8th, they got a wake-up call, because what our lying eyes were telling us is that this man is running circles around Hillary Clinton. I don't care how much experience she had and whether her husband was president before or not, that this was not going to get it. And I had said the morning of the election, they get ready to get their eye tooth shaken, because what they've been saying here is not going to fly, and Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States. And that's what happened. It was a done deal. But the ruling class know they're in trouble. They know the people even Democrats, they're sick of these people. And so what they're doing is just changing the geography, the demographics, and making sure that they bring in new voters who don't have this experience with the framers and have the background to know what this country is supposed to stand for, based upon the strictures written into the documents, the governing documents. We got a document that tells us that when the government ceases to do the things for which it was in fact intended to serve, then we have the right to rise up and alter the government and even abolish the government. They don't want it. They're not trying to hear that. They don't even go into that. They're talking. They don't even like that the document says all men are created equal. They're trying to act like that's not in there. But to say that you have in the course of human events, and that part about when governments cease to do the things to the ends for which it was in fact created, it says it is the right of the people. And not only is the right of the people, it says it is the duty. Now you teach that in school, and you got some people not going to take this stuff. That one guy throws his hand out that window and said, "We're not going to take it anymore." That's what people are feeling right now, and they know that, and they're trying to find a countermeasure to counteract that, because what they could do if they had any kind of integrity, which they don't, what they would do is they will change their policies so as to become more accommodating to the desires of the people they're supposed to be representing, and then do a better job of making sure they understand the will of the people, and then they're fulfilling the will of the people by being popular and will be popularly elected. They're not going to do that because their interest is not the same interest as the American people. And Donald Trump is speaking that interest that they're not speaking to, and that's why he's a threat to them. And they got to find a way. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I can tell you this, they're not laying down. You can believe that. They're not laying down. And they're talking about anything. We've been a lot of things that have come about. Okay, well, look at that interview, because that interview showed that this boogeyman, Vladimir Putin, he's a boogeyman now. We got to look out for this guy. This guy is dangerous and blah, blah, blah. He's just a flake out there, doesn't know anything, can't do anything. And what Tucker Carlson did as a patriot, I see what he was doing. He went over there. I don't even think he had a commitment to do the interview. It seemed like he was over there knowing I could tell in that interview that Putin had looked up Carson's background. They had done research on Carson. John, did you see this part here when Putin, in terms of going through some things about Carson, told him he was very lucky. Told Carson this, he was very lucky to have been turned down by the CIA. Did you get that part, John? That Tucker Carlson, I mean, in his youthful euphoria, wanted to serve. He had applied for the CIA and they turned him down.
Well, believe me, I mean, those governments have access to our documents because we have the best government money can buy.
Yeah, right.
And so they can just get somebody to hand over. I mean, they got the dossiers of major people. I'm sure they can get access to everybody's, just like our own government.
Sure.
So
they have the same act. We're not the only ones. The FBI is out there. The KGB is out there too. And the Mossad is over in Israel. You got different groups looking out for the national interest. And you would hope they would do it here, but they are doing a lot of things beyond that point here. All I can tell you is this: go watch that interview for yourself and learn to think for yourself. When people say believe in nothing that you hear and only have what you see, I would say don't believe anything that you hear and don't believe anything you see. Believe in what you know.
No, so see, I'm just like dismayed though that okay, I'm going to try to throw this out there. It's like I see a discrepancy in how the press has always treated Donald Trump, and also now when you look at the connection to the documents. Now the courts ruled in favor, saying that Biden wasn't do anything wrong or something, or he wasn't wrong. He had the right to do that. There's such a double standard here, don't you think, or what?
Yeah, John, there is no standard. What they're doing here is they're doing what the late Alcee Hastings stated. Alcee Hastings was a low down rascal. He can come back and smack me if he wants to when I'm sleeping. But this man was no good, and he had been impeached in Florida as a federal judge, and he had been convicted on impeachment and thrown out off the bench of the federal court. He's one of those 15 judges that have been. We've had 15 judges that have been impeached. 6 of them were convicted and removed. He's one of them. And then what he did, once they removed him, he then went and joined the House that had impeached him and became a member of that body that had impeached him and referred the impeachment to the Senate for trial. And they found him, and they were able to get 303 votes, more than 2/3 vote. You need 2/3 is is 6 or 7. So you need 2/3 of the Senate to convict. They impeached him by a majority vote, and they convicted him by a 2/3 vote or more in the Senate. They had to have more than 6 or 7 votes to bring about conviction. They had those votes. There was so much evidence. They could not, in fact, not that they were trying to do anything different anyway. This man was DOA, dead on arrival, and they had the goods on him, and they took him to the Senate, tried him, and got him out of there. He later runs for a seat in the for the House in his district, and those minions, because he played the race card, those minions put him back in power rather than further isolate him from power and not letting him hold on to power anymore, because he abused the power he had. They wouldn't have voted for him and gave him a position over and over again, being elected until the man finally canceled himself out by his death. But that is that we have the restraints, but if the restraints are not used, then it's like they don't exist. But the framers did their work and put the restraints in place. Now that kind of brings me to this conversation about Donald Trump, because what you had here, you would think they would at least have some respect for the American people, because what they had here was a case that was more egregious than what they're saying Donald Trump's case was. In fact, Donald Trump's case is not really that egregious, because Donald Trump had a right to his own documents, and there's nobody can tell the president of the United States that he cannot take documents that he had classified in his administration. And you want to do some writing after you leave the White House, and your memoirs, you want to be able to recall that. And when you walk out the door, what you had classified that's outside the preview of your administration, all that has changed anyway. They changed all the locks and changed all the data and things like that. So those files are closed off to you. You might have a clearance to certain things after you leave, but the things that is above your grade at that point, because you're no longer in the office, you don't have any access to that. And so this idea you're going to tell the president he cannot take his files with him, documents with him, and things of that sort. And so we asked a question last week: what's the difference between Biden and Trump? Now, John Hur, H-U-R, John Hur, who was appointed by Merrick Garland. This man needs to get out of there. Merrick Garland, you need to. This is Maul speaking. You need to leave. You need to show some respect for the American people, and just simply step down. That you don't have the integrity to stand before the people. They found you out. You're not doing anything in that Attorney General's office. You are violating the canons of the law yourself, and you have no right to be over the law that everybody else has to abide by, but you want to abide by it yourself. Now, have some integrity here, which I don't think that we're going to get it, but I would call for you to look in the mirror and look at the man in the mirror and understand that you're not doing the job that you're supposed to do in that high position. You're the chief law authority in the country. There's no position higher than your position, and you're not doing it. Anyway, they're trying to say this man, the difference between him and the difference between Biden and Trump. This is what John Hur said, that Biden didn't know any better because his cognitive skills are such that he did not know that he was doing this, and this. The man was doing it. Well, how long that cognitive handicap been a problem? Because he was taking things out when he was a senator. There were things this man was doing with classified information when he was in a senatorial seat. I admit he's never been a smart man, but that he never. This happened before he was president. Now that stuff you found in the garage behind the car in the garage. That's. I don't, even though that's callousness on his part, if those documents were taken out when he's president, that's a different issue for me, because I think that the president has to have control of the executive branch of government. I think that decision was that argument was resolved, or should have been resolved, in 1868 with the Johnson administration. If it had played out the way it was intended to play out by Johnson, Johnson wanted this to play out by them taking him to the impeachment trial and let him argue the position there. But the verdict, if that verdict had not fallen by one vote in the Senate, that would have been that could have been a very interesting constitutional challenge made. Been a great test case, because that charge against Johnson was a violation of the separation of powers, but it didn't get to that level because by one vote it fell, and so the conviction never took place. But Johnson was hoping for conviction so he can go take him to the court and claim the violation, and that was a violation of the separation of powers. They're gonna reach into the executive branch of government until the executive branch of government who could have in his administration. Okay, so we're moving along here. I'm finally going to get around to one article, an article that I have been talking about for a while now, but I want to stop and talk about it so you'll understand why what they're doing to Trump is not allowed by the Constitution of the United States. But who's listening to that document? Who's reading that document? And if they read it, who can understand it? I want to draw your attention to a part of that document that speaks to impeachment. The last part of the impeachment that's found in Article 1. Now, there's other parts that deal with the impeachment process in Article 2, but Article 1, the last part of it that deals with impeachment in Article 1 is Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. And John's going to put that on the screen for us to be able to see it and so on. Now, I'm going to read it, but I want to read it to an extent. I want to read it. I'm going to read it the way it's written. Then I'm going to read it backwards a little bit to show you what is being intended here. Now, Article 1, Section 3. I'll make sure I get my glasses for this because I don't want any of my critics. I have a lot of them out there. They're just waiting for me to fall on my face. And they're just waiting for me to make a mistake. And you're gonna be waiting till hell freezes over. Okay, so Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. This is the last part that deals with impeachment in Article 1 now. There are some other things in Article 2, but they get that confused because they think that Article 2 can be imported back to Article 1, and it can be imported back there to deal with impeachment. That's why Tribe says what he says, but he's wrong. And Tribe can say that on television. He can't say it here, and he knows it too. They know him out here. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. Judgment, I'm reading it now. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor. Any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. Now, you see how the framers got this situated. That they can, if you get impeached and convicted, it requires both, then you can be disqualified from any additional honor, holding office and things of that sort on the federal level. Not talking about the state level, but the federal level. This is what this is responding to. To hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Now, let me read that backwards so these scholars can understand this. To be subject to the law, you have to be convicted through the impeachment process. So I'm reading it this way then, just to make it clear what it's saying, that under the United States, the party convicted shall be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. But without that, then there's nothing they can do. That's what Article 1, Section 3 is doing. Section 8. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 8. That's what that part of the Constitution is doing. And I tell you why it's doing that. It's doing that because if you can just simply wait out the president, we're going to get him. We don't like what he's done while he's president, but we got this umbrella protection. But once he steps down, we're going after him. And the framers saw that as a bottleneck, a landmine, a ditch, you can call it that. It would create a problem. The problem that would create is that if people thought that what they did as president would be actionable after leave office, then you have the same thing you have right now by all these persons stepping down from the military. They're going to tell the military people that you got to get these shots, and people had an umbrage to it and understood there was a danger involved in it, and they said no to it. And they stepped down. But what they were doing there was trying to find out who are the compliant ones and who are the ones who will resist, and so on and so forth, because there are some people in the military that the military could rise up if they felt that they are informed on the Constitution, which they're not, but if they were, and you are in fact violating, which they are doing, and either doing it knowingly or unknowingly, but they're certainly not following the Constitution, none of them are doing it, then those that were not taking the shot can be identified. That could be a problem here, and they got them out of there. They want to find out who would be compliant. And they found out who they were. About 1,000 of them told them, see you later. And so they're gone. But that's kind of like a weeding out of the people who are carrying the guns and so on. And they did that to see where the compliance was. And they said goodbye to those that did not comply. But if there was such a problem in terms of corona, then those coming into the country would not be allowed in here because they're posing a danger. We don't know what they're bringing in here, what kind of illnesses they have. And if they're not getting the vaccine. But then have you noticed they're not even requiring it? Why? Because it's never about that. It was never about that in the first place. What they're doing is making the people bow down to power, and they're trying to test and see how much resistance is out here for what they're doing, because every step they take, and there's compliance with it, then the next step is going to be even more egregious against the people of this country, even more egregious attack upon the citizenship. But Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7, last of the impeachment parts in Article 1. That is saying here that you cannot bring charges against a president once he steps down, which is what they're doing to Trump. Because you see, you would wait until whatever protections that come because he's in the office. You just wait until he steps down from office and then get him. And to prevent that, what they did was throw a caveat into the politics, although the impeachment process is a political process. But I want you to look at Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7 again, and look at that it goes no further than a political liability. There's no legal liability there. But it says here that, and let me read this so you'll be able to see it. Nevertheless, the liable and the the party is liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. But look at where that liability is put in place in that part of the document. It's put in place where the president is liable only after he's been impeached and convicted upon the impeachment. Therefore, working in reverse, if there is no conviction, let's say there's impeachment but not conviction. If there's no conviction, then that becomes a moot question based upon Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. I'm right about that. And let everybody that's in the choir, let the church be quiet. That's what that means. If they had a problem with Trump, and they had a lot of problems with Trump, they were fighting the whole 4 years he was in office. If they had a problem, they had an opportunity, and they took it twice. The first time, a president of the United States or any other federal office holder, those civil officers, those other federal office holders, nobody has ever been impeached twice before. They're going to get him, was the idea. And it didn't work when they first of all brought it up in, let's see here, that would have been in August of 2020, and because the president still had some time in the office, they weren't able to get the number of votes to bring about conviction. There were Republicans that wanted him put down, but the MAGA was so strong they dared not come out and do that. So they remained hidden. Some of them did come across. I got all the names. I'm gonna be writing about them soon, about the ones that did that. This, the usual suspects: Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Clark, Maine, and a few other of the Democrats hiding out in the Republican Party because it's like Liz Cheney. She wasn't on the. She was not a senator, of course, but Liz Cheney was one of those persons hiding out in the Republican Party, but she was hiding out in the Republican Party in the state that held her to account. Wyoming voted her out of there, and they did it by a sizable percentage of the vote, and had a remarkable opponent that challenged her and ran her out of there. But it was unheard of by an incumbent to lose by the margin that she lost by. But she was a Democrat in the Republican Party. So was Romney. So was Lisa Murkowski and some of the others.
Nikki Haley. Mm-hmm.
Who is that now?
Nikki, was it Nikki? What's she running?
Nikki Haley.
Yeah, she's
Democrat.
Yeah, she's a Democrat. I mean, and she was like, has no loyalty to the party or to Trump or anybody else. I mean, and I heard somewhere rumors that she was actually financed by Soros. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where our funding is coming from. The left, you wonder what the left is going to do. They don't believe in holding elections, honest elections, even when they can win. They don't want to take a chance on the elections being honest because they don't intend to lose. They want to maintain power and continue down this road they're going down.
It goes back to that joke my mom used to tell us, like the presidential candidate was on the road with his wife campaigning and stuff, and the night of the election came up, he was they're in their hotel room watching her election results, and she fallen asleep, and the news came across that he had won, and he shook her up. He said, I won. She goes, honestly? He goes, well, let's not go into that.
Yeah, let's not talk about whether the election's honest or not. John, that's that joke about Lyndon Johnson. Johnson, Carlos was crying because his dad didn't come by to see him. He's out there crying. They said, Carlos, why are you crying? My daddy was here last night and he didn't come by to see me and blah, blah. I say, Carlos, your dad is dead. And the boy said, no, because he voted for Johnson. So, and that was Johnson's first election, by the way. Johnson won what by about 200 some odd votes. The guy that sold the election for Johnson got Johnson on his hiatus to the presidency over time, made him the most powerful, one of the most powerful senators we've had. Senator Johnson was a powerhouse in the Senate. But what got him on his way was a stolen election back there in the 40s when they were still in election. Now they stole that election and gave it to him. You telling me that they didn't steal election for Harry S. Truman in 48? And where everybody went to bed thinking that Dewey had beat him, and then they woke the next morning to find out the paper that came out and said Dewey wins. They had to pull that and run another edition, the trumpet, so that's out there in the early morning edition, pull all one out of there, put that one in place. And Truman had won after all, and so on and so forth. Well, we didn't raise any question about it because we hadn't gone through all these things we've gone through since that point in time. We didn't have a president thrown out of office that won all the states except one. And then 2 years later, he's thrown out of there by the Central Intelligence Agency through the Watergate break-in, which they fumbled at and sabotaged that break-in. They sabotaged this man. And that's proven by Russ Baker's book. Go read the documents. This was a deliberate sabotage. They went there and got caught. I have accused over years James McCord being the person that was the CIA person working both sides against the mill in that break-in and deliberately set those other persons up. And then by setting them up, he set Nixon up. And it led to these renegades on the Washington Post putting that on the front page of the paper, and then putting it on TV was the Sam Ervin Committee. And that's in your living room every day, and people are riveting to watch it as if it's something new. The government, we've been taught, was believed in government, other people, by the people, for the people. So what is Nixon doing? And they just couldn't believe that this was going on. Let me say this to you people that think that you were born in a different country than the country you're living in right now. What you're living in right now is a country taking off its mask. The framers did something very great, and they wanted to act like they're the custodians of that. They just fell down on their hands, and they're carrying it out, and they're the custodians of what the framers put in place. And these persons, in fact, have an animus against the framers of this country. And that animus can be seen in a number of different directions, and one of which is that they put, I know what they're doing, because look what they did in terms of putting Abraham Lincoln up there. It may not be clear what they're doing with Lincoln, but when they put Franklin Delano Roosevelt number 2, then you see what they're doing. Okay, so that's my rant. And I must tell you that we need to pay attention very closely here because it's not over yet. And the October surprise, it may not be October this time, but we'll see what they have in mind. And we're going to be holding them to account by pointing out everything that's happening. Pay attention, folks. This is it. D-Day, November the 5th. Okay, got to get out of here. Stay tuned, and don't forget to follow your dream, because if you don't follow your dream, you'll never know what's on the other side of the rainbow.